Hello, guys. Welcome to whatever this is. Welcome back to Guitar Lessons with Megan Church. So today we're going to talk about pentatonic scales and their shapes. I want to talk about exactly how to find them, exactly how they connect, and how to play them, how to find them while you're playing. I suggest you watch my other video. I forget what it's called, but I'll link it somewhere. We talk about the CAGED system a little bit more in detail. And I suggest you watch that first because we're going to be going over the same material. It's going to be kind of along the same concept. In that video, we talked about how to use the CAGED system to identify any chord along the fretboard. And now we're going to talk about how to use the CAGED system to identify any pentatonic scale shape all throughout the fretboard. So I suggest you watch that first and then come back here. So the main concept that you need to understand is that in every CAGED shape, there is a corresponding pentatonic scale associated to it. And I'll put graphs and everything so it's visually very easy for you to see which goes with what. So the most important thing that you're going to need to know in order to know which shape you're playing and where is going to be where the root notes are. That's important to know because that's really going to tell you what key you're playing in. So let's go through every shape in detail. So let's get a little closer. So let's go in order. We'll start with the C shape. So what chord are we playing? Let's establish that first. So we know that in the C shape, your chord identifier or your root note is going to be where your pinky is, right? And our pinky is on the F note. So that means we're playing the F chord. So now let's talk about this shape's associated pentatonic scale. So that looks like this. So how does this pentatonic shape correspond to this? Well, we have to think about what makes up a chord, right? So that's going to be the first, third, and fifth degree of any given scale. And what makes up the pentatonic scale? The notes that make up the scale are the first, second, third, fifth, and sixth degrees of the scale. So basically, you're adding the second and the sixth to this. So if we look at the arpeggio in this chord, which is basically the notes that make up a chord, it's going to be your first, your third, your fifth, your first, and your third. And when you play them together, you get your chord. So when we add the second and sixth degree to the arpeggio, right, to the chord, you get the shape. This is your third, fifth, sixth, first, second, third, fifth, sixth, first, second, third, fifth. And you don't have to get too caught up on that. Don't let that kind of confuse you. I just want to mention it just so that you understand what is happening behind the shapes and why they are the way that they are. But don't worry about that too much now. So just like this is your chord identifier in this shape, this is also going to be your key identifier in your pentatonic shape. Now there's a little two part to that because in each pentatonic scale or pentatonic shape, there are two root notes. There's a major root note and a minor root note. All you really need to remember is where the major root note and the minor root note is in each shape. So in this case, your major root note is your F, right? Because this is your F major chord. So this is going to be your F major key identifier, right? And this is going to be your minor key identifier, your minor root note. So what does that even mean? Well, it means that let's say you're playing or you wanted to play to a backing track that was in B major. So we're going to look for a B note on this string because the key identifier in this shape, right, this pentatonic shape, is on the second string. So we could find one right here, right? We're going to put our pinky here, right, on the B note, and you could even just fill in the blanks with the C shape. And now you're playing a B chord. And you could now play your associated pentatonic shape. Now, let's say you wanted to play to an A minor backing track. Well, you're going to find A note all along the second string because the minor root note in the pentatonic shape is on the second string, right? So that's going to be right here. And you're going to put your index there and just fill in the blanks. So all you need to memorize is the minor root note and the major root note in every single shape. Now let's go over to the A shape. So this is your A shape. We're playing the E chord because our index here is on the E note. And our associated pentatonic scale that corresponds to this is, so the major root note is going to be where your index is, right here. And the minor root note is going to be up here. So now let's say you wanted to play to something in the key of F major. Well, we're going to go along the second string because that's where our major key identifier is in the shape, right? So we're going to find an F note right there, and we're going to just fill in the blank. And now let's say you wanted to play something in the key of B minor. You're going to find a B along the first string because that is where our minor key identifier is in this shape. So we're going to find a B right here, and we're going to put our pinky there and just fill in the blank. So when you're playing any pentatonic scale in any shape, you are playing both a major scale and a minor scale. And that's going to be true anywhere along the fretboard. So let's say you put your pinky here and fill in the blank of this shape. You're playing the C sharp minor scale, and you're also playing the E major scale. Now for the G shaped chord. We are playing the D chord because our pinky is on the D note. So this is your D chord. And its associated pentatonic shape that goes along with that is the easy one that I'm sure everyone has seen. The major root note or the major key identifier in this shape is where your pinky is, and the minor is where your index is. So let's say you wanted to play in the key of A major. You're going to find an A note along the first string because that is where your major key identifier is in this shape. And so that's it right here. So we'll put our pinky there and just fill in the blank. Now, if you wanted to play a B minor in that same shape, we're going to find a B note along this note because that is where our minor key identifier is also in this shape. So we're going to find a B. So our B is right here. Put our index. And now we're playing in B minor. Now let's move on to the E shape. So now we are playing the B major chord because our index is on the B note. So this is the B major chord. And its associated pentatonic shape is so your major key identifier is going to be where your middle finger is. And your minor is going to be where your index is down here. So now let's say you wanted to play something in the key of F major. Well, we're going to go along our first string here because that's where our major key identifier is in this shape. And we'll find one right here. And we will just fill in the blank. And if you wanted to play something in the key of A minor, we're going to go along the third string, right? Because that is where our minor key identifier is in this shape. So what did we say? A. Okay, so we're going to go here, find our A note, and we will just fill in the blank. And now our last one, our D shape. So we are playing the G chord because our ring finger here is playing the G note. So this is your G chord. And the corresponding pentatonic scale that goes along with this shape is this one here. And so the major key identifier in this shape is a little different because you would imagine that it would be where your ring finger is, right? But it's actually not. It's actually right here. So that's something that you just are going to have to remember. So the major key identifier is here, right? And your minor is up here. So let's say you wanted to play something in the key of C major. You're going to look along this string here, right? Because that's where your major key identifier is in this shape. So we're going to find a C sharp, which is right here. And we will just fill in the blank. And now let's say you wanted to play something in the key of A minor. You would find an A note along this string here because that's where the minor key identifier is in this shape. So one right here, and we just fill in the blank. So now how does everything connect, and how could you actually play this, or how could you actually use this while you're playing it? Well, every single shape lines up back to back in order of the CAGED system. So in order of CAGED. So your C pentatonic shape is going to connect to your A pentatonic shape. Your A pentatonic shape is going to connect to your G pentatonic shape. Your G pentatonic shape is going to connect to your E pentatonic shape. And your E is going to connect to your D. And when you lay it all along the fretboard, it looks like this. So the entirety of the pentatonic scale is movable down the fretboard. And the way I want you to think about it is, let's say you're starting with your C shape. You could start that anywhere. And as you move that shape down, the other shapes go down with it and loop back to the front. Think of it as like a treadmill conveyor belt. So now let's say you were starting with your G shape pentatonic. So let's say you're playing your G shape here. Well, now you could work backwards because it's all in order and it's looping back up, right? So now your G connects to your E, right, here. But it also connects to your A shape back here. So you could go down here and then work backwards from there. And then you could play your C shape back here, right? So if you think of it as a conveyor belt or as a treadmill belt, if you start with your G shape up here, or you start with it up here, you could work forwards and backwards depending where you are, anywhere that you are on the fretboard. So what I like to do when I'm playing along to something, or if I'm playing over something that I wrote, a chord progression that I wrote, or anything like that, if I'm improvising over a song or anything, I always just revert back to my G shape, just because it's the easiest one, because all the minor and major is on the first string. So if I wanted to play something that was in F sharp major, I will just find an F note along the first string, fill in the blank on the G shape, and then you can work forward and backwards all the way through the fretboard. And you know exactly where they are depending on which shape you start with, because everything follows, everything is in order. So let me know what you guys think. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. And I'll see you soon.